All right, everybody. Good morning. The Chattering Magpie is here at last. I hope you guys can hear properly. We had quite an afternoon trying to get us all up and started. Thank you again to the gang who sat with me as I was doing troubleshooting all this time. Hello, gang. How are you?
Hello.
Good.
Happy to see you.
My
guys
voice
here.
is mostly back.
That is good. I remember last week you were sounding absolutely terrible. I didn't even recognize who it was whenever you spoke. But now that you're better, I can tell that to you without hurting your feelings.
Oh, come on. You weren't going to hurt my feelings even then.
Welcome, Patrick. Happy to see you here. And Fergie and Hirami and Purple Butterfly and Teal and Yukihime. So happy you guys are here. Let's see. Today we are reading 2 chapters, probably 3, depending on how far we, I don't know, the time. But yeah, we'll see. As you guys can probably tell, I am a little distracted. I am finishing setting up the stuff. Discord was being an absolute jerk today, but I'm still excited because these are Ferdinand chapters, you guys. I was waiting for a long time to do proper Ferdinand chapters, just trying to delve into his situation, which you guys know is, he has stuff going on. Anybody care to enlighten us? What's been going on with Ferdinand so far? And Rosamine?
He's denying his love.
Why? Why would he do that? And does he have reason to?
He's just Ferdinand. That's what he is.
Fair enough.
Denies his own happiness and every opportunity.
Yeah.
But also he's mistrustful of her because, this girl who just looks like Myne just appeared and then disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How could he trust her?
Especially imagine you have you see dream people, right, in your dreams, and one of them is a reoccurring person who just, I don't know, they just make you feel all kinds of things, and then suddenly they appear in the flesh and they're talking to you. And the world is, a mess all over the place. And this person from your dreams comes and starts telling you to do things and stuff. I think he has reason to be suspicious. And I don't know. I would be suspicious. I don't know about you guys. But if a dream girl came over and was trying to be, adorable and helpful and trying to impose her will upon my life and bring chaos to my order, I would definitely not take kindly to it. But that's just me. Maybe you guys would.
And then, said Dream Girl, she lets loose his secret to the people who he really, really, really does not want to know.
Mm-hmm. You're right. At least that's what he thinks. It's just things and shenanigans have been happening in the background for with Myne and playing around in all the realms and stuff like that. It turns out, though, what happens if, okay, you guys, I know we all love retroactive and retro fanfics, but I just want it to be a fanfic where Rosamine is sent back to the past to fix the Wii because the gods want her. I'm like, okay, whatever, I don't care. I just want one where it's like chaos, where you go back and you don't know what's going on. Something new, for Pete's sake.
Chaos.
All of them are well, she has all of this knowledge and it's gonna help her and it's gonna be so nice. And I'm like, no, enough of that. I want chaos, I want feelings, I want explosions, I want all kinds of things. So this is me.
Sounds like despite all your protests about my my mischief, you enjoy chaos.
Well, I did call you guys the mischief, right? And we are all devotees of the gremlin of chaos. So I think we all know that we're all here fans of a little bit of change in our fiction, or at least our fan fiction. So glad we're on the same page. Mischief Gang, unite! Yes.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah, I'm glad one of you guys is enthusiastic. That's okay. Yeah. Gang, say unite! Mischief Gang, unite!
Woo!
Yay! All right. Okay. So let's start this off by saying hello to early gang folks. We had the very first one on the YouTube chat was Yukihime. Hello, Yukihime. Happy to see you here. Says, I'm trying to finish a drawing before we start. I look forward to seeing it on the art channel. Share it with us if you haven't
We
already.
managed to finish in time.
Okay, cool. So remind me before we're done so I can show the people on the YouTube. We also have JC Fergie who says, sounds good on this end. Hello, Fergie. Happy to see you here. And happy that you're also going to be reading. You came in at a good time because we were still dealing with the who was going to read what. So excited to have people read today. We also have Blockshot. Hello, how are you? Says good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Or as I like to say it, good May. Good May, Blockshot. Happy to see you here. And for a split second, we had a unicorn come visit us. Yes, indeed. Vincent was here for a while. He left the chat though. But I see that he did type something, leave us a message on YouTube, says, who has this sexy voice?
We miss you, Vince.
Vince, why did you leave us? Well, he did say he was going to listen to the stream. So I hope that you are listening and that you enjoy this read along. So just a general welcome to Europe Gang. I hope this isn't too late, but if it is, thank you for joining us as we lull you to sleep with our beautiful, sexy voices. Yeah, everybody here has a sexy voice. Every single one of you guys has a sexy voice.
Oh my.
Yeah, right? Hirami was also on the chat, and Theo says, we found the true child of Chaosopher. Yeah, that's Patrick for sure. Yeah, you see, Patrick, you have been found.
It's what I do.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right, you guys. Enough lollygagging and chit-chatting. Let's get down to the reading. Again, we have finished for the most part, finished the Amethyst arc. Myne is pregnant. She just found out she's pregnant. Eckhart came to see her. They had a tender, warm, like I don't know, tender reunion. Then we had Dolores and Myne. Finally, they formed a truce. I mean, what regenerating someone's arm or hand will do to improve
Slightly
your
out of order,
relationship.
but yeah, that's about what happened.
Yes. So that Airfest winter arc is it's pretty much wrapped up. There's still some stuff, but for the most part wrapped up. We move to the sovereignty now. During the interlude that we read in the last season, the last read along, we just kind of caught up with Rosamund and Ferdinand and what they're doing. What's up?
Blocktrap says, to be fair, it's 10 p.m. here in Europe.
Oh, okay. It is rather late. All right.
Might explain why Vincent said good night.
All right. Good night, Vincent. Hope you have sweet, sweet dreams. And that Schlaftrum gives you all his blessings. Yes. Yes. And Blockshot, if you do fall asleep to the sound of our voices, may you also have sweet dreams. Yukihime, you are not allowed to fall asleep. You stay up. You stay up.
I'm trying. And also I'm
You have a role to read.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm also a little bit more east, so for me it's 11:30.
Well, you managed to be here when it's 4 o'clock in the morning your time, or 3
Exactly,
o'clock.
so
You got this, champ. Okay,
exactly.
so let's read. Today we're reading chapter 101 and 102, probably, maybe 103, since we do have a Ferdinand role. So let's see. We got
Though
Patrick.
Fergie's hoping for just 2.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, me too. I'm also hoping for just 2, honestly.
Okay, fine. That's fine. That's fine by me. So we'll only do 2. And then next time we'll just do a slightly longer one. So we have Patrick is reading Eckhart, Yuki is reading Eglantine, JC Fergie is reading Ferdinand, Teal is reading Myne, Hiremi is reading Eustace, and Angela? Anastasius. And Little Butterfly is reading
Angela.
Solange. Okay.
Elements. She's reading a Pokemon.
Okay, you guys, let's get this started. Chapter 101, Plummeting. Summary. Ferdinand learns about Myne's pregnancy and the ambush. His reaction to it all. Ferdinand's sorry. Let's try again. Take 2. Ferdinand's fists clenched tight enough to make his knuckles whiten. Rosamine had vanished without a trace in the middle of their conversation, leaving him seething with unanswered questions and the unsettling feeling that something far larger was at play. Frustrated, he paced the hidden room like a caged wild beast.
This is why I can't trust her.
He thought bitterly.
The moment I start to get close to the truth, she disappears. Just like before.
Just like before? A flicker of memory stirred, tugging at the back of his mind. Somewhere, sometime, someone else had vanished in front of him, leaving him with 100 unanswered questions and a suffocating sense of despair. However, before he could follow the thread of distant recollection, a faint clink and a light shone at the door of his hidden room. Someone needed him.
And so, the day begins.
With a resigned sigh, Ferdinand opened the door. Immediately, the cool early morning air swept in, and he saw the first rays of dawn filtering through the windows. It was early. Too early for both Eckhart and Eustace to stand before him. An ominous weight settled in his chest. Something was very wrong. Eckhart looked. He was not right. He was grim-faced, pale, and oozing with the intent to murder someone. A wave of dread swept over Ferdinand.
No, not now. No more bad news after... No more bad news when I'm still in the middle of this mess.
Ferdinand belatedly regretted the fact that he'd given his retainer his namestone back, and so he had no way to check him in case he decided to bolt.
Eckhart.
Ferdinand said, his voice a forced calm, though the unease gnawed at him.
What's happened?
His retainer handed him a letter with trembling hands and spoke in a low, measured tone.
This arrived late last night. News from Errorfest.
Ferdinand frowned as he took the letter.
Already? Karstead said it would take at least 3 days for any updates.
It's not from him.
Eckhart replied.
It's from my mother. It's about Myne.
Mine?
Ferdinand blinked, confused. He had not expected to hear anything about her. He shut the door to his hidden room behind him, putting aside all his earlier frustrations regarding Rosamine, and sat at his desk.
Things took a turn during the operation.
Eustace said as Ferdinand scanned the letter.
Lady Dolores experienced several injuries, but escaped with her life thanks to Lady Myne's healing. However, while she was unharmed, Lady Myne fainted upon return. When the physician examined her, it was found that she
is with child.
Ferdinand finished for him. The words tasted like the bitterest poison in his mouth. His eyes flickered over the rest of the letter, each word cutting deeper than the last.
A blessing from Entridge?
It said, a polite euphemism that only made the truth more unbearable. The world seemed to shift beneath him, everything tilting out of balance. A heavy pressure wrapped itself around his chest, squeezing the air from his lungs. Ferdinand's hand shook a little as he crumpled the letter his jaw tight.
This is reality.
He reminded himself. He had always known this moment would come, but now that it had, he was ill prepared for it. However, amidst his turmoil, his gaze snapped to Eckhart, who stood rigid, his face a mask of fury barely contained. Ferdinand remembered his retainer's previous history and how, at this moment, Eckhart would have nothing in mind but securing the safety of Myne and his child. No wonder the air around him hummed with murderous intent, reminding Ferdinand that if he didn't act quickly, Eckhart might lose control altogether. He could sense it. Eckhart was on edge, and it was up to Ferdinand to avoid a bloodbath.
Your mother says she's unstable. Your mother says she is stable and is in no immediate danger.
Ferdinand said, smoothing the crumpled letter.
Still, she never sticks to the plan, does she?
He mused with a frown, tapping the edge of the folded letter against his chin as his mind raced.
My lord, this is my fault.
Eckhart's voice cracked.
If anyone is to blame, it's me. I should have...
Eckhart.
Ferdinand cut him off, his voice calm but sharp, slicing through Eckhart's spiraling guilt. The calm was a facade, though. Every word came with a tremor of control, but it had to be done.
I need you to focus.
Eckhart's shoulders trembled.
How could this happen? She could have died out there. I would have lost them both.
His voice broke, raw and desperate.
And I...
Enough.
Ferdinand cut him off, sharper than he intended, but there was no time to indulge in such pointless musings.
We must move at once.
Sir.
Eckhart snapped to attention, like the soldier he was, and received Ferdinand's orders while used to spend letters to Ehrenfest with his instructions, to be sent without delay. There was no other option. Ferdinand knew with a cold certainty that the time was up. He needed to finish his book of Miss Leonora and stabilize the country in order to ensure the safety and future of the woman he loved. This wouldn't be the last attempt to kidnap her. It would only be a matter of time before... He shivered. No. He would not allow it. Not her. Not now. Never. Her happiness, her future, and now this unborn child's life. All of it rested on what they did next.
First, an ordonnance.
Ferdinand said. Eustace had one prepared for him in the blink of an eye.
Tell Eglantine the ingredients for maximum quality parchment are ready and that we will deliver them without delay. However, she must open the library immediately.
His voice was firm, almost ruthless. The library and other important buildings at the Royal Academy were under seal to protect them from potential collapse. But none of that mattered now. He needed to complete his book of Miss Leonora, and quickly. Eustace spoke a more formally worded request into the bird, and then sent it off with a swift move of his stab. The small white bird fluttered away, disappearing into the light of dawn as it flew on its way to the royal palace. Then, he sat down to write several letters to send to Ehrenfest. Within a bell, Eglantine's response came. Her voice sounded strained, but nevertheless she had done as Ferdinand had requested.
The library is now open, as you commanded. Lady Solange will be there to welcome you, as will a number of my retainers, to retrieve the materials.
They wasted no time and prepared for immediate departure. The knights stationed at the teleportation room greeted them with a nod. They were already accustomed to seeing them travel back and forth from there to the royal palace. Plus, during the winter there had been an uptick in travel to the Royal Academy, as Ferdinand had moved all rituals to the Holy Land, with view to moving the Sovereignty Temple there in the near future. Unlike the sunshine at the Sovereignty, the clouds were gray and heavy with snow at the Royal Academy. The endless winter weighed heavily on the land, the snow still thick, and the halls that were once filled with bustling students now stood vacant. The desolation was uncanny. But then Ferdinand realized with the start, it was already past the time of the year when classes were in session. Ordinarily, the Interduchy tournament would have been held a few weeks back, marking the official end of winter school session. And yet, as he glanced out the windows on his way to the library, the snow still blanketed the grounds. Every leaf's power lingered unyielding. Was the prolonged winter a sign that the gods had finally abandoned them? He'd have to do something about that. As they neared the library doors, Ferdinand spotted Solange waiting for them, her hands clasped anxiously in front of her. Surrounding her was a group of black-caped nobles. But one face stood out from the rest, his haughty face grimacing with barely concealed irritation. Oh, I guess I'll read it. Not him, Ferdinand thought, suppressing the urge to shout.
I do not need this right now.
Lord Consort Anastasius, the perpetual thorn in his side, had a knack for wasting one's time with his baseless jealousy. More than once he'd barged into meetings with Eglantine and demanded explanations as if Ferdinand would ever try to steal away another man's wife. Eventually his wife, unable to keep him in check, had to be open about what they were so secretly talking about, just to get him off their backs. It was not even laughable. It was downright insulting. Nevertheless, Ferdinand bowed and went through the expected formalities, though his patience wore thin.
It's been much too long,
Ferdinand said, unable to keep the bite of sarcasm out of his voice. Anastasius shot him a sharp glare, as if to remind him of his status, but caught himself, remembering that Ferdinand was working for Eglantine's sake. The lordling begrudgingly informed him that he was there to unlock and supervise. Ferdinand nodded curtly and turned his attention to the librarian.
Lord Ferdinand,
Solange greeted him, her voice trembling slightly.
It's been much too long. The library is ready for you.
Ferdinand gave her a brief nod, skipping the pleasantries. Normally, he would have shown more respect to the custodian of the realm's greatest treasure trove, but time was short. The heavy doors of the library creaked open, and they stepped into the cold, silent interior. Before they could proceed any further, Ferdinand paused and turned to his men.
Justus, give them the materials for the parchment. Eckhart, keep everyone downstairs.
He commanded, his tone brooking no argument.
I will go upstairs alone.
Anastasius visibly balked at being excluded, but when faced with Eckhart's unwavering stance, he relented. After a moment of hesitation, he signaled for his retainers to remain below as well. Ferdinand then ascended the staircase, each step echoing through the empty halls like the beating of a drum, each beat propelling him forward to the inevitable fate that awaited him at the top. He stopped before the statue of Mastionora, the goddess of knowledge, her stone form looming over him like a judge. He extended his hand and poured his mana onto the book the statue held, but instead of absorbing the mana, the book rejected it. Ferdinand frowned, his brows drawing together in confusion. He tried again, more mana this time, but still, nothing.
Why?
Ferdinand's voice was low, barely more than a whisper. The magic circle above the Royal Academy was still visible. During the winter dedication ritual, he'd made sure to perform the necessary ritual to activate it in preparation for this moment. And yet, this felt wrong. This was exactly what Eglantine had described when she had tried to enter the larger shrines or pray at the smaller ones.
What is going on?
Frustration surged through him, nodding into something darker, more volatile. Time was running out, slipping through his fingers like sand. The Archduke Conference loomed closer, and everything needed to be in place by then. He had to reach the Garden of Beginnings at any cost. Completing his book of Messionora was no longer just a task, it was a matter of survival for Jürgen Schmidt, for Myne, and for her future.
There's only one option left.
He muttered under his breath, his eyes narrowing with grim determination. If this door wouldn't open, he'd break in from above. He'd done it once. He'd do it again.
Ferdinand, where are you going?
Anastasius shouted, his voice sharp with alarm as he saw Ferdinand sprint down the stairs. But Ferdinand swept past him and out the library doors without a word. This was neither the time nor place to explain the details, and soon he took to the sky without so much as a response. Behind him, Eckhart and Justus were quick to follow, with the rest trailing behind.
Stay back and warn the others.
Ferdinand barked, slowing only for a brief moment to give his order.
Tell them to take cover under the ivory buildings and not get in my way.
Yes, sir.
They replied, and Ferdinand raced higher and higher into the sky. The cold wind stung his face, but he ignored it as he single-mindedly cut through the clouds until he broke free into the dazzling light of the sun. And still he climbed, higher and higher, his heart a storm of emotions threatening to tear him apart and which egged him on to act so recklessly. Frustration gnawed at him. He had been blocked at every turn, kept in the dark, first by Rosamine, vanishing in the middle of the conversation, slipping away from him just when he had finally begun to think that he could trust her. And now, by the incomprehensible resistance which barred him from the Garden of Beginnings. Fury simmered beneath his skin. He had been questioned, doubted, mocked by those who lorded their status over him, fools who couldn't even comprehend half the knowledge or mana that he wielded. He raged at the blighted fate to which he had been doomed to from the moment of his conception. His heart blazed with anger that, in spite of that, it was up to him alone to save the country and pay for the mistakes of others. But underneath it all was an overwhelming grief at what he had lost, but could have had so easily, if only he had...
No, it was never meant to be.
Myne had been the one light in the endless void of his life, and he should have cared for her far more than he'd done. He should never have hurt her or humiliated her. He knew full well that he deserved the pain he was experiencing. He had known on some level that Myne would eventually move on and that her life would continue without him, and he did not wish her ill in the slightest for having done so. Even now, in the midst of his despair, he was happy for her and wished her the best. She should have a family and happiness, just as he had always known she could, and just as she deserved. But he had imagined it happening after a few years, when his own loneliness, misery, and bitterness had hardened him enough to be numb to the pain. Not now. Not so soon after they had parted ways. Only a season had passed, and yet here she was, irrevocably beyond his reach, tied to another man, carrying another man's child, his retainer's child. Ferdinand caught his breath at the pain of it, but shook himself and prepared for what he had to do. He pulled out Leidenschaft's spear tightly and began filling it with a tremendous amount of mana until it crackled with energy and vibrated faintly in his hands. The very air around him seemed to hum, thick with tension and power. For a moment, he considered the very real possibility that this would be a suicide mission. If the magic circle didn't activate, if the mana backlash hit him, or if he simply crashed into the ground after failing to break into the Garden of Beginnings, his life would end right then and there, under that cold, merciless, iron sky.
I'm doomed either way.
His thoughts were laced with bitterness.
If I don't find a way in, this country will fall, and mine with it.
The thought spurred him forward, driving him to act. With a savage cry, Ferdinand hurled the spear toward the magic circle below. It shot through the air like a blue shooting star, streaking downward, and without a second's hesitation, Ferdinand followed. His jaw clenched as he braced himself for impact, his body cutting through the air at terrifying speed as he plunged downward on his high beast. The wind roared in his ears, icy and unforgiving as it tore at his skin. But none of it mattered. His mind was locked on one thing: her. He'd rather die trying than let Jürgenschmidt crumble into ruin and let his worst nightmare come to pass. As he streaked through the sky, Myne's face flashed before him. Her radiant smile, the soft warmth in her eyes, the feverish passion in them in that one moment of madness when he let himself hold her. But then, the image of her carrying a child that should have been his cut through him like a blade. He imagined Myne humming a lullaby as she held their tiny babe in her arms. Golden-eyed and blue-haired, it would sleep in perfect trust that it would be loved and cared for in a way Ferdinand had never experienced, but had longed for all his life. He had already lost so much, endured so much. He could do it again, even die. But Myne was a different story. He would never let the light of life in her eyes fade. He would protect her, even if it meant sacrificing everything.
I won't let Jürgenschmidt collapse. I won't let her die. I won't!
The spear collided with the circle, and the air was torn apart by a deafening explosion that rocked the skies and sent a shockwave rippling outward as blinding white light consumed everything in its path. Ferdinand, still descending at a breakneck speed toward the center of the circle, slammed into the mana backlash with a bone-rattling force that sent pain screaming through his body. In that final moment of violent, searing brightness, one last image filled his mind. Myne's face, looking into his, pleadingly.
Stay with me. Love me. That's all I really want.
Her words, filled with desperate longing, echoed in his mind for a moment. And then, there was nothing. End of chapter. Notes. This is the 100th chapter, official 100th chapter. Pretty interesting. Thanks for reading. Much love, Magpie.
Oh my god.
Poor Ferdinand.
Yeah.
He's a walking tragedy.
He's hit his limit.
So he's being pretty reckless. He's like, well, the country's gonna collapse, and so I have to do whatever it takes for Myne's sake. So let's remember that he had a pretty disturbing dream where he was basically trying to hide from reality that the country was collapsing. But in the end, even though, supposedly he was able to just hide away with Myne, she still was not happy and she still died in the end. So he's trying to avoid some nightmare situation like that at all costs. By the way, Fergie, thank you for that amazing amazing reading. Oh my gosh.
I always try.
Have more confidence. You're great at that role.
Yep.
Yes.
Fergie reads Ferdinand here. I tell you, Fergie, it's yours if you want it. Just as Patrick has claimed Eckhart's role. Of course, though, it's first.
And I shall never relinquish it.
It is first come, first serve officially, though. But, I mean, feel free to claim.
I mean, if we need to stay by rules.
Mm-hmm. We like law and order. Right?
Wait, weren't you just talking about loving chaos?
That's why I'm laughing. Can there be a middle ground here? Can we just chaos and some things and order and others? Oh my gosh. All right.
Being between a rock and a hard place is not a good place to be.
Yeah, I know. Well,
one or the other.
So we had something happen this time. Ferdinand learned about Myne having a kid with Eckhart, which is devastating to him. But it's not that he is, he's not being like, curse you, Eckhart, or whatever. He's just kind of like, I did it to myself, and it was the right thing to do, but it still hurts like a bitch, right? So, so Ferdinand it's reckoning time. So, sorry.
It's self-destruction time.
Yeah, that's he's really good at that, at self-destruct. So I figured, why not here as well?
And also being his worst enemy in a lot of situations. Like, the whole thing, the whole premise of this thing was orchestrated by Ferdinand, who just said, nah, I'm not gonna be with her, nah.
Well, again, remember, he respects Gunther. So it all started with the promise.
But it's also part of the reason is because he just doesn't think that he's worth it.
Yes, that too. So he would rather be a martyr or like somebody who can be of use to somebody, because that's his role in his life, to be used by people. This Ferdinand did not get the character development that Canon Ferdinand did get. So it's gonna reflect in very toxic behavior, and so more on that in future chapters, and whether or not he can be healed. Is it too late? Is it we don't know. You're just gonna have to
Blackshot had an interesting question.
Oh, see, thinking of it, why doesn't Ferdinand try either way through the farthest hall? Thanks for that one. That doesn't work also. It hasn't worked. And there's going to be a future chapter where I also say like he's tried that and it doesn't work. Yeah, I absolutely the usual
also,
ways don't work.
Also, to answer your second question, Blockshot, the shortcut opened while doing the divine protection ritual is the same pathway in the farthest hall.
So when the divine protection ritual happens with the dancing statues and then like some kind of thing opens up, if the circle were actually working, it would work, but none of the circles to enter the Garden of Beginnings are working. So anything related to that is not working. Neither the shrines and the Royal Academy. So the Royal Academy right now is screwed. Notice that in the Sovereignty, there's already like spring has arrived. So the weather is kind of like going its normal, kind of, right? But not at the Royal Academy, the Holy Land. It's like a different place. So that place is absolutely screwed up. It's a reflection of the reality. And in this reality, it's
the
really
gods
bad.
have abandoned us.
Basically, you can read it that way.
I kind of read it like basically the characters all have like, I mean, mostly Ferdinand and Rosamine each have their own choice to make, and like it's not a good choice either way, and I'm not sure who to support, but it's interesting that it feels like the gods have made their choice. Like there is no future for this wave, it's over, please get it done with, Rosamine.
Yeah. That's basically it. That's basically it. By the way, interesting No, hold on. Before that, I think, Hiremi, you wanted to say something earlier? Or was it Yukihime?
It wasn't me, no.
No? Yukihime? Did you say what you need to say?
I just wanted to read what Blockstrat said, but Patrick said.
Oh,
it's
okay. Also, I was reading another comment by Blockshot says, Anastasius, I'll go upstairs too. Eckhart, flashing his teeth. I can see him growling, right? And flashing all his teeth. And Anastasius is like, never mind. Yeah, Anastasius he's still the same person. He's still like a simp for his wife. Except that he is one of 5 husbands, so he doesn't get to have her all to himself. And also, he's kind of bitter that Eglantine relies on Ferdinand for something so huge when he used to be royalty.
She should rely on her husband.
Yeah, but he as royal, he doesn't have the answer, so he's really like, he's hating this so much. He's hating this so much. But he has no other choice because between Eglantine suffering and, whatever, he'd rather just rely on Ferdinand and get the thing so that Eglantine can be happy. So I guess that's some show of love and devotion there. He's willing to.
And if you enjoy these stimulating conversations while we simp and admire our favorite characters, please like and subscribe and support your magpie. Join us on Ko-fi so you can get into the Discord server and we can discuss this there as well.
Yeah, and also, by the way, you guys, we are going to be recording the chit chat for Part 5, Volume 8 next week, which is super excited because we kind of stopped at 5-7, so we're going to continue on. Those long discussions where we're just like, it's the book club meeting. I call it book clubs. They're chit chats, but they're basically book club meetings. So we're gonna have our little chit chats. We're gonna do it 2 days. So Europe gang, if you're listening, we're gonna do on Wednesday. Yes, next Wednesday, not this one. Next Wednesday at 11 a.m. And then for America and Philippines and Southeast Asia, it's gonna be at 4 on Thursday. So do be sure to join us if you're able to. How you do it is through Ko-fi. Become a member. You won't regret it.
Support your magpie. Give her the monies.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for that timely reminder. So let's see. Did the gods abandon them, or is every glebe, says Brockshot. Did the gods abandon them, or is every glebe just about to break free? Yes, that's all. Yes, I mean, yeah. Why can't we have both? Right? Alright, so that was chapter 101. I think we should get into 102.
Yeah, it's the end of the world. Does it matter how it ends at this point? It's just ending. Just assume that.
So maybe
it's the end of the world as we know it.
By the way, you guys, maybe
I know that it matters. Okay, I know that it matters. I'm just saying, like, it's anyway ending.
Maybe it won't end. Who knows? Maybe this one will trump canon weeb. You never know. By the way, one more thing before we continue. I just want to say thank you to Fergie. I know I'm gonna embarrass you again, Fergie, but when I was writing this plotting out the first version of this story, we were like, yes, suffering, yes, angst, yeah, Ferdinand, suffer. And we're like brainstorming stuff. We were, okay, that was me, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that we had this scene. It was going to be a little different because it was going to be him like taking out his frustrations by going out to battle the Lord of Winter. So I always intended for him to have like this like breaking point for Ferdinand. He just like ruthlessly throws into it. But I have to credit Fergie for having brought up the idea. in the first place. I was like, yes, that, I love it. Let's do it. So he didn't get to battle the Lord of Winter, like in the first iteration. I was going to do it, but it had happened. He went and slammed into the thing, and as he fell, his heart was full of grief, despair, rage, all kinds of emotions. Because I mean, why read
Just remember,
something?
folks.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, folks. This woman simps for Ferdinand,
Look.
and she wants the man that she simps for to suffer.
Look.
Her words.
Every single person that I love, I make him suffer a little. Okay. There we go. That's how I love. Okay. Leave me alone.
I'm glad that you have admitted that when you write this, you are like, yes, suffering, more suffering. This is how I imagined you writing this whole story. So I'm glad I got confirmation.
Don't tell everybody. Shh.
I love Ferdinand. Here's more suffering for
Hey,
you.
Don't let this get out into Reddit, okay? I just don't tell the folks over there. All right, you guys. Enough of this. I think we should we should finish the next and last chapter, since we still have Fergie with us. Actually, though, this is mostly like me reading, so sorry about that. Not too much dialogue here. All right, let's do this.
There's a bit of Myne and Ferdinand.
Very little, but there's a little bit. All right, let's do this. Chapter 102, Reuniting. Ferdinand POV. Summary. What happened to Ferdinand after he slammed into the magic circle? Ferdinand awoke to a world that could only be described as a paradise. After the violent collision with the magic circle, he had been slammed by a wave of mana so intense that he had expected it to be the end of him. Of course, he'd known going in that he might very well find himself ascending the towering staircase to the distant heights. But never in his wildest imaginings had he pictured the realm of the gods to be quite like this. He blinked into the soft glow of mid-afternoon sunlight from what must have been a sun that was far warmer and brighter than the one in Airfest. Yet instead of harsh heat beating down on him, the warmth was gentle, wrapping around his chilled skin like soft velvet, comforting and soothing. The air was filled with the sweet, intoxicating fragrance of flowers, though he couldn't identify any of them. Gone were the biting cold, the snow-laden winds, and the stark silence of winter. Here, golden light flowed through a canopy of green leaves, giving the whole scene a dreamlike glow. He could hear the melodic thrill of a songbird nearby, its tune mingling with the soft gurgle of a hidden fountain. The breeze that brushed past him was so mild it felt like a lover's caress, and the air itself seemed alive with the hum of peace. He pushed himself up slowly, taking in his surroundings, his body feeling light and unburdened. He did not feel a single ache or twinge of pain, an odd sensation for him, one that confirmed that he was no longer in the world he'd left behind. Everything he had known, every struggle, every burden was gone. All around him, fey plants thrived in abundance. Large blossoms glowed with unearthly hues that shifted in the light, their vibrant green leaves swaying as if guided by an invisible breeze. There were so many plants of varieties he could not recognize, which formed a garden so lush it felt almost otherworldly. Beyond the garden, the shimmering expanse of an endless sea stretched out before him, sparkling beneath the sunlight as it met an infinite horizon. It was a sight too beautiful, too surreal to belong to the mortal world, a place so vibrant and full of color that it felt worlds apart from anything he had ever known. And yet, there was a strange familiarity about it too, as if he had visited this place once before, not in reality, but in some long-forgotten dream. Then he noticed the finer details. He'd been reclining in a deep-cushioned lounge chair, its rich jewel-tone fabric and tasseled cushions embroidered with vibrant patterns. Next to it was a polished wooden table, its surface gleaming with a rich dark hue upon which was a light repast. A spread of wine, small cakes, and unfamiliar delicacies nestled in dainty bowls. He leaned closer, inspecting the small dishes, with a growing sense of recognition. The place, the garden, the setup, even the food stirred something within him. It was as though someone had reached into the depths of his desires and crafted them into reality. A soft step behind him, and the sound of someone calling his name made him turn. His heart nearly stopped. Rosamine stood before him, and in that moment, everything else dissolved into nothingness. Her presence consumed him entirely. She was radiant as the sunlight itself. Her golden eyes sparkled with a tenderness that stole the breath from his lungs. The dappled light danced upon her dark blue tresses, which shimmered with a luxurious luster like nothing else in all the world. And her gown, as her person, was richly adorned with glowing face stones that seemed to pulse with mana. His mana. He opened his arms, beckoning her to him, and she stepped closer and sat on his lap. And her smile, oh, by the gods, that smile stole every breath from his lungs. If he had been back where he'd come from, he would have been conflicted, very much so. But he was now a world away, far beyond the reach of such cares, and for once he ceased to question, ceased to torture himself, ceased to fight against what he wanted to do. He drew her near with a slow, deliberate motion and placed his lips on hers. The kiss was feather-light, yet it carried the weight of everything he had ever felt for her, but had never been able to express. She stood still for a moment, as if surprised, almost as if this was the first kiss they'd shared. But soon she melted into him, kissing him back with a fervor that made his world spin. That kiss, it was everything. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Ferdinand's heart was pounding in his chest, not from exertion, but from wonder. He stared into her eyes and saw everything he'd ever dreamed of reflected back at him. Could she see the depth of his adoration? Could she feel how utterly and irrevocably hers he was?
More.
She whispered, and then she was kissing him again. The kiss deepened. Their movements became more sure, more instinctive. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer as if she couldn't bear the distance between them. His arms wrapped around her, holding her tight against him, as if he had finally found the one thing he had been searching for all his life. And in that moment, everything felt right. It was a kiss filled with meaning, of belonging, of love, of relief. Like the entire world had shifted back into place, and he was exactly where he was meant to be. For the first time, Ferdinand felt like the missing piece in his life was finally found, like he had found the key to the door that all his life had kept him separated from what he most longed for and dreamed of. Every single struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of heartache had led him to this, to Rosamine, to this kiss. The sweetness of her filled him, a sensation so overwhelming and right that it brought a sting to his eyes. He never knew a kiss could feel like this, like the world had stopped spinning, and for once he didn't need to run, or fight, or think. There was no guilt, no weight of responsibility. He didn't have to wrestle with the agony of holding her close or loving her. He was free to love her completely. He slid his hand to the base of her neck, his fingers gently cradling her as he tilted her head back. His lips trailed down her throat, each kiss a quiet vow of adoration. She gasped softly at his touch, her breath catching as he showered her skin with tender devotion.
Oh, Ferdinand.
Rosamine's voice came out as a breathless sigh. Her fingers trembled as they gripped him tighter, drawing him closer. He could feel the tremor of her voice beneath his lips, the way her body responded to every kiss.
Ferdinand.
Every time she whispered his name, it was as though she was saying the words he had longed to hear, words that had haunted him in his quiet moments of longing.
I love you. I love you. I love you. Ferdinand!
Suddenly, a voice, sharp and urgent, rang in his ears, shattering the blissful moment like glass. He was pulled, yanked from the idyllic garden, away from the sun-drenched warmth and the sweetness of his beloved's touch. His eyes snapped open, blinking against the harsh, cold light of a never-ending winter. The vision, or dream, or whatever it was he saw, slipping away like sand through his fingers, leaving him staring up at a bleak gray sky. A small snowflake swirled down from above. His body ached from the impact of falling, and the biting cold began to seep into his bones, a cruel reminder of the paradise that he had just lost. He felt like he wanted to die, but before he could wallow in despair, his gaze landed on a figure kneeling above him. Rosamine. She was here, in the flesh, her golden eyes wide with relief. Her cheeks were tear-streaked and flushed with a vivid red from the cold. Her breath misted in the air in large puffs.
Thank the gods you awoke,
she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, and her face contorting as large tears welled up in her eyes before they ran down her face.
I was so scared.
Without warning, she threw herself into his arms, her small frame pressing against him with such force that he found himself once more lying flat on his back in the snow. The cold bit into his skin, but her warmth was undeniable. Her embrace was fierce, and it felt real, for once.
Myne?
He said haltingly, before a barrage of memories struck him. Rosamine. Her! The girl that had been haunting his dreams and disrupted his time alone in his hidden room. He remembered her now. She was the one who had saved him from the villa of Adelgisa, cared for him with tenderness when he'd been a bewildered, lost child in a palatial mansion before vanishing from his life after his baptism. She was the girl who had swooped in time and time again, saving him and healing him, first after a terrifying Turnus befallen attack, and then giving him aid during that poisoning attempt before he entered the temple. It was her. It had always been her.
It's you,
he whispered as his arms wrapped around her instinctively. He heard her say something in reply, but as she was weeping against his chest, he couldn't understand what it was.
Myne.
He struggled to reconcile the woman in his arms with the dream that he had just left behind. It wasn't the lush, sunlit garden of his imagination where he could kiss her without guilt, where everything was perfect and untouched by reality. But after so many years of knowing that something had been missing from his life, years of agonizing over misplaced feelings and unresolved longing, he had finally found her, the girl who had carved a place for herself in his heart and whom he'd loved and yearned for all along, even after he had forgotten her.
Myne,
he murmured, his voice filled with disbelief. And then, to his own surprise, he began to laugh. It was a low, soft sound at first, but it quickly grew louder, filled with a mixture of relief, joy, and wonder at the sheer insanity of it all. As he cradled her in his arms, the snow swirling down around them, a weak sun broke through the clouds above, casting a pale light over them. In that fragile moment, as a faint warmth touched their skin, he understood. This world was cold, far colder than the paradise he had just left behind. But this was real. And that was enough. End of chapter.
He's got his memories back.
Yep. He finally remembered. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's a little extra note. And this is kind of like a little treat for you guys who are joining me. But so this scene that we read, it's actually almost straight out from another fanfic I wrote, which is called Schlaftrum's Blessing, which is covers the story of Ferdinand, and you know when Rosamine gave him a blessing in the light novel, and he falls asleep immediately. You know, I think it's part 5, volume 10. I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So I wrote up fanfic that's like kind of like, so this is my take on what he dreamed about, because we all agree that he dreamed naughty stuff. Of course, for him, naughty is, you know,
Of course, we all
kissing.
agree this.
For him, naughty is just kissing. So that's as far as it went. And so he had a dream that was sent by Schlaftrum. But since Myne has been playing around in Schlaftrum's domain, I mean, since Rosamund has been playing around in Schlaftrum's domain, he kind of got was able to reach beyond the physical domain into Schlaftrum's domain when that crash happened. So he was able to get something from canon, some dreams from canon. I don't know. From my canon, my head canon. So that's why he dreamt of Schlaftrum's domain, Schlaftrum's blessing. I don't know. Just a little note, because the realms are kind of all converging, and there's time, and even Schlaftrum's blessing. That one was like had to deal with like a time situation, like a prophecy situation. Also, time, dreams. So again, that's a like a mechanism in this story, like dreams and time just going crazy.
I just thank you for giving some love and happiness to Ferdinand, even if it's not real.
Canon, he has all the love and all the happiness. Okay, he can stand a little bit of a challenge in this one. All right, but he has all the love and happiness in canon. Don't worry.
And here I thought it was a near-end experience.
Well, it kind of was. We will go into it next chapter, though, which is Rosamine's POV. But that's for Wednesday. Let's see. Yukihime says on the chat, says Rosamine is a total emotional mess at this point. Her mission is to kill... Well, if you want to put it that way, yeah. Her mission is to kill him or Myne, just to finish that thing. But she's not only unwilling to let him die, but actually fights to keep him safe. Yeah, I think there was a comment. I don't know if it was in this chapter or next chapter where somebody brings that up. I'll clear it up soon. Okay, so that's a valid point, but there's reasons. Okay, there's reasons.
Yeah, but like I'm like, this is when I read it at first, so like I'm sharing most of the time I'm sharing my thoughts from like when I first read something, and yeah, I was like, what is gonna go next? What she's gonna do now?
Because
like, I just believe there will be like so big consequences. Like after this whole ordeal, no matter what happens, and no matter how like successful Rosamine is in her mission, if she gets back home and she has all the memories of having lived here, like she's gonna be properly traumatized. Like she just won't be the same person.
Well, I don't think she has experienced anything too traumatic yet. So let's.
I mean, like if she needs to kill her version. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's true.
It's her version and for Ferdinand, she's gonna be traumatized one way or another.
Yeah. She stabby has to happen, whether it's the love of her life, Ferdinand, or at least the person she loves more than, or like her family, or more than family. I think she loves him more than her family for sure. whether she stabs some like him or stabs a pregnant woman, like both are horrifying scenarios. So
Exactly.
yeah. You bring up a good point, and I have thought about it long and hard. So we'll see what you think
Yeah,
of.
and also what if I'm also wondering what if like she's not the only one who remembers this alternate wave? What if Ferdinand is also like, what? You just made that Myne just not exist? Like what? Like I don't know. It's a lot. Don't confirm or deny. Just I'm
not.
throwing my.
I'm not because you have to wait. What you're all caught up in AO3, right? You have to wait about 5 chapters, and hopefully I concluded.
That's 5 months.
Come on, give me a little credit. So once I hit the ground, once I start, I'm not
mean. It's realistic. Like it's actually like 5. I'm looking at them out.
5 months. You're so mean. By the way, you guys got lucky. I let people stew and wonder what happened to Ferdinand after he slammed into the magic circle for about a month. They were like, did he die? Is he okay? What happened? The suspense is killing me. So you guys got to hear what happened like 10 minutes after we read it. So lucky you. Again, TL, Yukihime, those who were reading as I was publishing, thank you for your patience. You guys are awesome.
I had nightmares. I genuinely had a nightmare about next chapter of this one. So, yeah.
Let me see. Plummeting Ferdinand was 9:16. Actually, no. I think I only left you guys in Tenderhooks for about 3 days. Because it's reuniting, right?
I don't think it was a month for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I think the one that was
Oh,
a
no.
month was... Oh, man. I think it was... I don't know. There had been times where I leave you guys, like, hanging there, and I apologize. But yeah, this time I think I was very, very mindful, because people in the comments were like, but what happened? Is he dead? Tell me now. So I was like, okay. I'll write the next chapter.
When I heard that chapter title, I couldn't help but think of the song.
What's the song?
Reunited and it feels so good.
Oh my gosh, that's an oldie. Who sings that?
I love oldies.
Who sings that one? Wait. Who sings that one? Yeah, but who is it? I'll have to look it up later. Unless you...
I don't remember.
Shoot. Thanks. Now I have to look it up.
How did it go? Reuniting and Patrick.
Reuniting
and it feels so good.
Reuniting. The song by Peaches
And
Peaches and Herb.
Yeah, Peaches and Herb.
Really?
78. Oh my god.
Wow. Yeah, it tracks. My parents used to have like well, my parents they would love music from like disco era and the 80s, so I grew up listening to that. Yacht rock.
Some might say I'm an old soul.
Yacht rock. I mean, we're both kind of like around the same like millennials, so we kind of grew up with that music. At least if you were born like in the 80s or something like that. All right, you guys. So yeah. So it is time for us to leave and to end this read along. I had a lot of fun reading. Again, so many thanks to those who joined and read, and for those of you who are watching and you waited for us for like an extra 15 minutes because I was having some issues. Thank you for your patience. I hope the wait was worth it. Blockshrug, you're awake. You're still awake. Thank you for staying with us, even though it's late over there. Says that's even outside my sound bubble. Well, now you have.
I think he's calling me old.
You know what? It's okay. It's okay. What's the problem with that? We're old millennials. What can we do? It's a fact. All right. So if you have a song, because Blockshrug does like to also put together songs that go with each chapter. by all means, share what brings to mind. I had like a whole bunch of songs that go with this chapter. So if you're interested, go to AO3. I list the songs that I used to write these chapters to. All right. So today, highlighting, thank you so much to Hiremi and Teal. You guys are amazing. Clap, clap, clap. Yes. And
Round of applause, everybody.
see. Then we have Patrick was reading Eckhart. Yuki read Eglantine. JC Fergie read Ferdinand. Teal read Myne. By the way, Teal, thank you for being such a good sport about reading the last chapter. I was like, oh man, like I wonder if it's gonna mortify her, like it'd be embarrassing. No, that was amazing. Thank you, Teal. See,
I keep it professional.
absolute professional. Yeah, look at you. We should all take
And we're not even
inspiration.
paid.
Yeah, look at you, Teal. I swear, Teal, you have to do something with that voice of yours. Yeah, you heard it from me, okay? Yep. If you were to open an ASMR channel just reading books or talking about the weather, I would be listening to your channel. I would, okay? Just saying. You got voice. All right. Then we got Hiremi.
I'm not even joking. I'd subscribe to that.
I would too. I would. We also had Hiremi, who is, look at her talent. She read both Eustace and Anastasius. Oh my gosh, Anastasius.
I was scared on screaming on my microphone, so I took the microphone away from me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if it sounds okay.
It sounded great. Thank you. And we also had Little Butterfly. Only had a little line, but Solange, it was so good to see Solange. So thank you for reading that, Butterfly. And you know, she sounded like the beloved old lady that we just all love. You know, it makes her sound so good. Just wanna hug Solange, poor dear. Okay, so all right. So thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you on Wednesday to read a little bit more of A World Away, see how the relationship between Rosamund and Ferdinand changes now that he remembers her. And you guys, Rosamund is now fully out in the physical domain. Remember, she could only manifest in his hidden room. She is now out and about.
He opened the way for her.
Yeah, I wonder how that's gonna affect the, what will Eustace and Eckhart say? Find out.
Never thought
soon.
we would have a Myne and for Myne in the same fic with no Harren tag.
Right. It took people were like, no, is there gonna be cheating? I'm like, no. First of all, I don't do three ways, and second of all, I don't do cheatings. So yeah. Thank you for hanging with me and being patient
But
about
think
it.
of the possibilities.
Yeah, I mean there are fanfics of this fanfic, but for me,
Wow.
this is the way.
The possibilities have already been explored.
Yeah.
This is the way.
Theo says, the gremlin has broken containment. This is not a drill. Right. And Fergie, what is that? Is that a tower? An arrow? Yes. All right, you guys. Take care. We will see you on Wednesday. Thank you, gang, for joining me. Bye-bye. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Sayonara.
Adios.
Auf Wiedersehen.